Hello, we are gonna start in a moment, so if you can find your seat, please. You will have more time to chat later, huh? I assure you. All right, then I think we can start. I hope you had enough coffee to start the morning. I certainly did. My name is Luca Bertuzzi, Technology Editor at Euractiv, and it's my pleasure to moderate the fourth Mayor's Digital Assembly. I'm going to start by doing something I'm not supposed to do, so talk about myself. Because as a tech correspondent in Brussels, there is a tendency in what we call the EU bubble to only focus about what's going on in the institutions, and especially in terms of digital regulation, legislation, directives and recommendations. But what we often miss in Brussels is feedback from the local level. How the digital transformation is actually playing out, and how the citizens are experiencing the digital transformation firsthand. And if we talk about local realities, we need to talk about cities, since the overwhelming majority of European people live in cities. So this is really an occasion to regroup and to think about what are the main challenges and opportunities, what are the best practices out there to bring the digital transformation forward at the local level. We are going to have two panels. Today, one to talk about leading by examples, on how digital technologies such as digital twins are being used to develop innovative services and improve people's experience. And then we are going to talk about a city that leaves no one behind, because digital inclusion is the big elephant in the room when we talk about the digital transformation. So enough of me. Without further ado, I'm very happy to give the floor to someone that almost doesn't need a presentation in Brussels, one of the rising stars of the European Commission, Deputy Director General for DigiConnect, Renate Nicolai.
Thank you so much. Good morning. It's really a pleasure to address you, albeit remotely, even though you're in Brussels, to this first Mayor's Digital Assembly meeting. I would really have loved to be with you, but I'm actually on a digital mission myself today here in Stockholm at the Digital Assembly, where we are going to take stock of the progress we have made on the Digital Decade Policy Program. But I'm so happy to support your pioneering work and your commitment to the digital transformation in cities. And this comes as such a good moment. First, because we have entered a new phase in our digital transition with the Digital Decade Policy Program and the respective 2030 targets. This is not a nice to have. This is rather a must have if we want to ensure our future competitiveness. And we can only be successful if we join forces at all levels, be it national, regional, or local. And this potential is so often untapped by fragmented approaches and by silo thinking. I therefore highly appreciate initiatives like yours, which can help to showcase municipal solutions and help them scale up. Second, because your work is at the heart of making the digital transformation work for all citizens, no matter where they reside throughout the Union. We must address the digital divide that exists and that could further deepen economic and societal disparities in the single market. And third, your initiatives showcase how the two transformational changes of our time, the digital and the green one, can mutually support each other, tackling climate change in a meaningful way, requires finding smart digital solutions, for instance, on housing, energy, mobility, just to name a few. In addition, involving cities and regions is also indispensable if we want to move to a fully digital public service world. Another target we have set ourselves for 2030. Without municipality involved, we will never reach the last mile to the citizens in that endeavor. And we observe that local and regional administrations are at times even more agile than their national counterparts. We see very good examples of experimenting with emerging technologies, innovative public procurement, and technology startups. Hence, we fully support the vibrant Living-in.EU movement that promotes the European way of digital transformation in regions, cities, and communities. Doing it the European way matters. We stand for a digital transition that is human-centered, that includes issues such as respect for data privacy or respect for open standards and interoperability. I'm impressed by the political declaration, Join, Boost, Sustain, by your movement that counts already signatories from 4 member states, 140 mayors, and many EU regions. I invite representatives at all government levels to join these movements by signing the declaration. You and your communities are working hard to shape this movement and to propose tangible solutions addressing financial, legal, capacity building, and technical aspects for the benefit of all. And there are some good results already. Allow me just to name a few. To ensure interoperability, I would highlight the European Interoperability Framework for Cities and Communities and the Minimum Interoperability Mechanism Framework. Or regarding digital twin technology, I would mention the Flanders Digital Twin, the 3D digital environment in Rotterdam, or the Cities Platform Services from Valencia. Congratulations on all these achievements. Our hope is that others will be inspired and that we will be able to observe the scaling up of these resources to create commons of European digital solutions that can benefit all communities in Europe. In this context, I would like to stress an innovation from the Digital Decade Policy Programme. It has opened the possibility to create the so-called European Digital Infrastructure Consortia, the EDICs. An EDIC is a new legal entity that will ensure the rollout of so-called multi-country projects in support of cross-border digital infrastructures. And later today, here in Stockholm, at the Digital Assembly, we will mark progress made so far on the EDICs. And I'm very pleased that among those, there will be one led by Estonia with the support of Germany, Slovenia, the Czech Republic, and Spain on smart cities, or more precisely, networked local digital twins towards a cityverse. I'm confident that other member states will shortly join this edict. Therefore, I invite you to gather more information on this initiative. The EDIC would also have an industrial dimension. It could develop an industrial ecosystem for digital twins and develop a market for EU companies. This should make Europe a leader in this growing market and help cities build their own digital data platforms and digital twins quicker and at less cost. Europe should win the smart city digital platforms market and enable business, especially SMEs, to flourish and to extend their business internationally. At the same time, we are supporting the development of the so-called Cityverse and the Digital Europe Work Programme. This initiative will bring EU industries, including SMEs and cities together in developing the various layers of virtual reality worlds that may be useful for citizens. A Cityverse is also part of our forward-looking work towards virtual worlds. We will soon issue in the Commission a communication on the matter, as we want to use the possibility of this immersive experience that they offer for industry, for medicine, for education. But we also want to ensure that we take citizens with us on this journey so that they can trust it and that we design it in an open way. Cityverse could be used by citizens to discover cultural, historical, touristic assets of a city. It could be used by businesses to offer innovative services related to tourism, entertainment, shopping, and urban planning. And it could be used by cities to manage their infrastructure and sustainable development and mobility. This experience is, of course, enhanced through augmented reality and virtual reality technologies. A Digital Europe call is open to this end, defining and piloting on the concept of Cityverse. I hereby invite you to help your SMEs to answer it. One last word about connectivity and 5G that are at the core of any city digital ecosystems. One of the Connecting Europe Facility digital program actions is dedicated to supporting the deployment of 5G in cities. There are great use examples already in health, education, and city management, and a platform 5G for smart communities is open to all in order to share good practices and matchmaking. I invite you all to make full use of this platform. We progress better if we measure what we are doing. Therefore, I support the promising development of a tool to measure digital maturity at local level, so-called Lordimas, and I'm looking forward to the related announcement of the Committee of the Region. In conclusion, the digital decade is to be shaped by all of us. Regions, cities, and communities have a key role to play in reaching our objectives and targets. I thank you wholeheartedly for your commitment. I encourage you to stay on course to support a digital transition across Europe. I wish you a very fruitful event with good discussions and panels, and I look forward to continuing our cooperation. Thank you very much from Stockholm.
Thank you, Renate, for these opening remarks and also for finding time to connect with us in your very busy schedule. Indeed, there are several elements to unpack from your speech, and we will deep dive on them during this event. But before moving on with the first panel, we will have a welcome introduction by the co-chairs of the Mayor's Digital Assembly, starting with Seppo Määttä, Mayor of the City of Oulu. Please on stage.
Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor for me today, as newly appointed co-chair, together with Mayor Lluïsa, Moret, Sabidó, to welcome you all to this first EU Mayors Digital Assembly of the Living-in.EU movement. It's a key occasion as we gather here to embark on a transformative journey towards the digitally empowered future for all cities and communities in Europe. My name is Seppo Määttä, and I've been now 4 months the mayor of the city of Oulu. And before this position, I worked 4 years at the Prime Minister's office as a Director General in the Strategy Department. And before that one, I've been working 6 years also in the Ministry of Finance in Finland. I'm very proud to stand here today representing my city, which is one of the forerunner digital cities in the world. Every day, approximately 3 billion people in the world use mobile technologies which are developed in Oulu. The University of Oulu runs the leading 6G flagship research program, and our world-class companies like Nokia Polar, Orand, iLog create products that are known and used around the globe. As co-chair of this assembly, I am humbled by the opportunity to work alongside such forward-looking colleagues who are dedicated to harnessing the potential of digital technologies and innovation to drive positive change for all cities and communities in the EU. The Assembly holds immense significance. It is the first and only Assembly that brings together visionary mayors from across Europe, united to build the European way of digitally transformed cities and communities. The digital transformation of our cities is a long and complex process. Since the launch of the Joint Boost and Sustain Declaration in 2019 in my city Oulu, the movement worked on building the conditions, being those at technical, legal, financial, capacity building, as well as monitoring and measuring level to leverage digital solutions and practices for all cities, in communities and in the EU. In doing so, collaboration at all levels of governance and working in partnership with the public and private ecosystem players has been essential to advance and key enablers for digital transformation, as well as to work on and validate new monitoring and measuring tools at local and regional level. It is time now to give a second boost to the Living-in.EU movement, providing strategic advice to this multi-level governance collaboration. By identifying key common political priorities, the Mayor's Digital Assembly will provide direction to the activities on the community and collectively shape the future of our cities and communities. As a part of my mandate as the co-chair of the Mayor's Digital Assembly, I will lead the work on the new mission statement for the movement, which, together with the joint Boost Sustain Declaration, will guide the work of the Living-in.EU community for the upcoming years. I invite all mayors already today to identify, as part of our panel discussions, some key challenges and needs for our cities. During summer, we will launch a short survey among the signatories to identify and gather even more insights and to inclusively define the key priorities for the community. I would like to bring up one thought on how I see digital transformation and the role of cities in it. For centuries, the cities were developed and led from the city hall. But in the modern complex world, the approach to city development and digital transformation is a major part of it is radically changing. Citizens, businesses, research institutions, universities need to be more involved in decisions that concern them. I have formulated this change in one sentence: from the city hall to the streets. This indicates a holistic, shared and collaborative approach to digital transition and the city's role in achieving it. Dear colleagues, I invite you all to actively engage in today's discussion and in the future collaborative work. I also urge you to spread the word among your peers, for this is not to be an activity of only few visionary local leaders, but rather an inclusive and collective effort which can be benefit over 300 million citizens in the EU. Thank you very much for your attention, and let us begin this remarkable journey together.
Thank you, Seppo. Indeed, Oulu is one of leading by example cases that we will discuss today. But before doing that, I would like to invite on stage Lluïsa Moret Sabidó, Mayor of the city of Sant Boi de Llobregat.
Buenos días.
Good morning, everybody. It is a pleasure for me to be here and to participate in this starting point of the Digital Assembly of Mayors here in Brussels. It is a symbolic element because I think that it is key for us to raise our voices as communities and cities. These voices must reach the European institutions. As my colleague from Oulu mentioned, us and we from the local communities have to connect different perspectives. The strategic perspective, meaning what are the planification logics, what are the problems and what are the needs and what are the challenges of these digital transitions in every city. But at the same time, we have to have a strategic vision that evolves together with the day-to-day life of our inhabitants. If our inhabitants don't feel a part of this digital transition, we will generate more inequality. This element, the digital transition, must be implemented in every level. We have to give everybody the right of having a digital access, and that is why in every institution we must work to avoid inequalities. We can't leave anybody behind. Sant Boi is a metropolitan city from Barcelona, from the Catalonian area, and we are, of course, focusing on the inclusion of this digital transition. We are an example of an inclusive transition. We have to identify and overcome digital gaps. They are very complex and we have to tackle them. Inequalities are always linked to digital poverty, and this we experienced throughout the COVID pandemic. During these times, some households, some families didn't have enough devices to be able to connect. Not everybody had access to education or to remote working. That is why digital access is a right and gives us access to healthcare, to education, and to work. From Sant Boi, from our city, we are working together with different pilot projects to be able to identify and reduce inequalities and to be able to tackle and disconnect this digital poverty. We must take into account a magical concept, transition. This is a rather important word. Transition means step by step. It means a path. It means long-term work. And that is why we have to welcome everybody into this transition. And I agree with my co-president, co-chair. Everybody, every local government must lead the building of different ecosystems together with different actors. The academia, experts, productive actors such as businesses, and we have to welcome different actors from the society to be able to interconnect. This assembly must push this collaboration perspective. We have to coordinate between institutions because we cannot do this alone. In our neighborhoods, in our villages, we need resources, we need collaboration, and we need initiatives from every and each institution. And that is why this assembly is a great, excellent initiative to be able to network, to create links between villages and cities in Europe, so our voices, so our needs are heard, because we are the people who hear the needs firsthand and we have to help them. It is in our cities where we implement the initiatives, so we must hear the needs. And to conclude, I want to say that this cooperation must be implemented throughout every city. Sant Boi feels honored because we are co-chairs of this new European network for the digital transition. It shows our territorial diversity. Finland and Spain, two very different countries, and this must be represented in the assembly. The diversity means new elements, it means new visions, it means transversal actions, because we are a rich continent, and thanks to our initiatives, we will be able to do so. My colleague from Oulu mentioned a survey, and throughout these kind of surveys, we'll be able to collect, to identify gaps, and to identify what to tackle first to reduce digital poverty. The ecological or the green transition is generating new employment, new economical opportunities, so the digital transition should do the same. We need new opportunities, new profiles for our inhabitants, such as a digital assistant, for example. We have to accompany people, we have to be there for people, not only throughout capacity building, but throughout our availability. So nobody is left behind from these digital rights. And so nobody is left at the margin of the rights.
Desde las administraciones.
So also from public administrations, we need to provide these public services that have clear obligations. There's this duty that we have, and they're coming closer. They're becoming digital services, but we need to make sure they are more accessible, they become more simple. And I think one of the main objectives of this assembly, this is the natural duty also of public administration, especially local administrations, is to create equality, to generate opportunities. And I think that this assembly has set and has fixed this aim and will achieve it.
Muchas gracias, Lluïsa, for those inspiring remarks on how inclusion should not come as an afterthought for the digital transformation, and how bridging the digital divide requires all stakeholders to be involved. And we will discuss this more in the second panel. But for now, I'd like to invite the speakers of the first panel to join me on stage. Meanwhile, we will, please come. So, as you're getting comfortable, I just want to let you know that we will have a Slido during this panel, where you will be able to provide feedback, and we will pick up your answer later to inform the discussion. So let me introduce you. Well, you have met Seppo already, but let me introduce you to Matteo Lepore, Mayor of the City of Bologna, Felix Sproul, Deputy Mayor of the City of Munich, and Tiit Terik, Deputy Mayor of Tallinn. Right. Well, I'd like to start with you, Seppo, since you kicked off this event. Well, first of all, thank you for your welcoming remarks. I think Oulu provides a leading example when it comes to ensuring an inclusive governance. How can local authorities become a platform for stakeholder involvement?
Well, I think that some basic kind of principles that are based when we talk about the stakeholder engagement, that it's very, very important, as we all know, I suppose, that you communicate very often, and then to consult also the different stakeholders. And the collaboration is one of the key issues that needs to be tackled, so that it is positive collaboration and not that just somebody is left behind. And the co-creation is also very, very important in this case, so that the engaging stakeholders, so it must be genuine and not only just put on the paper. And because we can speak a lot about the stakeholder engagement, but we need to do something also on that one. So that, and because the actions is the solution, not only talking about that we should do that and so forth. To understand how digital innovation is going to benefit people and places, we must first be clear about local needs. I think that's also very important regarding the stakeholder engagement, so that we have some messages of what are the objectives, what is the issue we are aiming to solve and why, what are the results we are looking for, who should benefit, who are our internal and external stakeholders, what type of roles, skills and inputs are needed for value creation. And we believe that the input of the entire urban community is needed to create new digital solutions meeting the user expectations and helping to achieve the city's economic, social and environmental sustainability goals. And to help boost the businesses' expertise and future readiness of all stakeholders is very, very important as well. We need to engage residents, employees, politicians, universities, researchers, educational establishments, governmental and non-governmental organizations, businesses, and so on. So the variety of the stakeholders is very broad, and we need, of course, also prioritize that which one of the stakeholders would like to be there, and then also are ready to put their resources also to the shared projects. To this end, one of our main tools in Oulu, city of Oulu, is Oulu Innovation Alliance. It's pretty well known innovation ecosystem bringing together universities, research institutions, and leading companies and the city with our employees, services, and citizens. And our joint vision is to be Europe's best ecosystem to produce global added value through digitalization. And it's all about collaboration and crossing the silos. Based on the constant dialogue and consultation with our stakeholders, we have agreed on the joint vision and strategy, followed by a concrete collaborative implementation plan. And to strengthen our innovation activities, the City of Oulu and the state have entered into an ecosystem agreement for the current EU funding period. And this agreement is aligned with the strategy of Oulu Innovation Alliance. And it's 4 ecosystems, like the first one being digitalization in the changing urban environment. The second one is Oulu Health. Third one, sustainable circular economy and clean tech solutions. And 4, horizontal cross-cutting ecosystem based on continuous learning, entrepreneurship, and startups. Within Oulu Innovation Alliance, the City of Oulu has defined the city as a development platform. So we are providing the city for different technology companies who would like to test their own products and services. And we invite those companies, but also other stakeholders to use this opportunity. And we aim to develop a clear operating model for internal and external stakeholders to enable co-creation and experiments in a real urban environment. I would say that when we are creating our innovation ecosystem, I think that we should be a little bit careful with our mapping exercise to identify and agree on the different roles of stakeholders in our ecosystem orchestration. Who are your users, who are innovators, implementators, implementation partners, and facilitators? And who is going to take the role of an ecosystem leader who attracts required actors, engages in strategy creation, and coordinates the work to secure that intended value is created. In our alliance, the different ecosystems are run by different stakeholders. We have joint vision but shared leadership, and I think that's vital in the digital transformation in a complex world. On practical level, the city may have a strategic choice to act as a leader for urban digital innovation. If and when you take that role, also necessary resources must be made available and allocated. There are a number of catalysts for digital transformation where the city may have a role to play, like living labs, regulatory sandboxes and testing sites, approvals and permissions, public procurement, funding for, turning the page, funding for development, investments to data platforms, infrastructure, connectivity, and skills, but they are not always easy to leverage. And finally, we come to a role of trust. What is the meaning of trust in our work when we're working together? That is the cornerstone, actually, for the cooperation between different with different stakeholders. When it comes to Oulu, I can say that. The value of trust is written in our DNA, and we try to do our best to cherish it. However, in a bigger picture, trust needs to be at the center of digital society, where giving away your personal information is part of everyday interactions. For example, the cityverse development is not possible without data collection and management. People think, is it worth it? Is my data safe? How is it used? Who is it shared with? people are more willing to make this trade if they receive desirable high-quality products, services, information and other benefit as return, and if they can trust on the system. To sum up, I would like to return to keywords I said in the beginning: communicate, consult, collaborate and co-create. And major ingredients of this process are joint vision, shared leadership and trust. And to this end, I would like to conclude with my vision from the city hall to the streets. It takes a village to raise children, as they say, and the same can be said of digital transformation. Thank you.
Thank you, Seppo. Before moving on to the next panelist, we are going to open the first question for Slido. So, what is the most pressing challenge in terms of digital transformation of your city, community, or region? We would like to hear from you. Please take your time. Right. While we give people time to fill in the survey, we move on to Matteo from Bologna, which is a leading city in terms of developing a digital twin, thanks to the creation of a public consortium of internationally recognized excellence, which includes Cineca, Italy's leading supercomputing, and the University of Bologna. I'm a former alumni of the alma mater myself, so this is really interesting also personally for me. How is this project shaping up your public policy?
Hi everyone, first of all. Yes, in this moment Bologna is in a special moment, I have to say, because we have a new supercomputer, one of the most important in Europe. We have a lot of researchers in the city, in a technopole with the university and this consortium Cineca. And we are developing a digital twin with the city of Barcelona and with the collaboration of some other cities. This project is important for us because we want to scale the approach we have on digital. In a traditional way, we used to develop policies on digital agenda to include people, but I think this supercomputer for us and the computer in general is an important open door on some political issues. Democratization of digital, democratization in general of our life and our communities, because the platform and artificial intelligence now are important political topic. And from a municipal point of view, I think it's important that we create and co-create tools to adapt our policies, but also to be not only the subject, but the political point of start of decision making and democratical decision. For us, in the mission 2030, climate neutral, for example, is important to use these tools, this model, and in the future, the digital twin, to be a more efficient approach, but also to include different solutions. My region, Emilia-Romagna, 2 weeks ago, has been protagonist of a huge flood. 21 rivers in all the regions, and hills and mountains. Many people injured, many people evacuated. And I think in a so industrialized area of Italy and so on gentrified area of Italy, we need a more efficient model, but also a different culture, a different vision of the soil, a different vision of the environment. And technology we need the technology inside this vision as a tool to predict, but also to convince the decision makers and the community that the transition, the just transition, is something we need to accelerate. So for us, digital twin is not only a tool, but it is a vision to push democracy and transition forward, I think. And we hope that the collaboration in Europe between cities on this kind of project could be a very political, important project. Thank you.
Thank you, Matteo. Moving on to Felix now, because Munich is collaborating with Hamburg and Leipzig in a 5-year, 21 million project on local digital twin. What is Munich's main goal for this collaboration, and what are the challenges for upscaling digital transformation of Europe's cities and communities?
Yeah, as my dear colleague from Bologna mentioned, so the digital twin is not only a tool, it's to push democracy forward, to have participation. And for us in the city of Munich, the digital urban twin is the heart of Munich's smart city concept. It is really essential for what we are doing. And in the cooperation with Leipzig and Hamburg, we have an extensive exchange of our approaches for digitalization and smart cities, because I think cooperation is really essential here, because we can share resources, we can work on different things, exchange our knowledge, and get so, in the end, a better product for our citizens. And the cross-city partnership in Germany between Hamburg and Leipzig and Munich can really be seen as an icebreaker for the urban digital twins. It is a great opportunity to jointly develop these tools in the end with the vision, with the target to make real copies of our cities. That it is possible for all our citizens to have a better understanding in what is going on in the city. And for us it is important that the citizens' participation will be better, but that also decision makers can make better decisions. And maybe there are some of you in the room who listened in the past to city planners when they tried to explain to you how the new street will look like, or how the new buildings will look like, and where you have the new bicycle lane and the bus lane. And to be honest, if you want, you can raise your hand. Who have sit in these meetings, listened to urban planners who are telling you for an hour what they are planning and understood nothing? For me, it's true. And this is something we want to challenge with this digital urban twin. And one main project here for the city of Munich is that we have like a really good, not only a 3D animated map of the city where you can fly through, but we also have camera cars through the city to build really every detail we have in our city. And you can put on, it is working in some quarters of the city right now, and we are hoping to have it for the whole city really soon. You can put on VR glasses, and you can really walk through the new street. So if you have like a citizen participation where you want to explain what the city is planning, then the citizens can put on their VR glasses and can see how the street will look like after it is done what we are planning. And this is really a game changer, because in a lot of cases, you have like the planning, you're trying to explain what you want to achieve, you are trying to build a vision with your words. But all the politicians under us, we know how difficult it is to do a vision only with words. And then the people see the construction sites for years and years and nothing will change. But in the moment, they can see how it will be when it's finished, is a really great moment. And of course, it is not only for citizen participation, but also it is really important for the administration to do the planning. So we can run a lot of what-if scenarios with this new technology. So we can look what if we extend the buildings, like we put 2 more floors on the building. We can look what if we bring old car lane to an end and we build a bicycle lane there, because we have all the data in it. We have not only the data of the traffic, but we also have the data of noise. We have the data of air pollution in it. We have all the signs in the streets, so we know where is it allowed to drive 30 kilometers an hour, where is it allowed to drive 50 kilometers an hour. And all this data, additionally with real-time data, is also necessary for the future to have, for example, autonomous driving, self-driving cars, where we have a test field now in Munich to get experience, to gather experiences with self-driving cars, which will be part of our future. In a hope. We can put the bus lines in, so we can really try out what will happen before it happens. We have a real digital version of our city. We will put in energy supply soon, energy consumption soon, that we can see, okay, where is energy needed, where is it not needed. This is also really important for achieving our climate goals, that we know where do we need, like, producing of solar energy, for example. How is it possible to bring the energy supply to the places where it is needed? And in the end, we also have the cooperations with our great universities in Munich, in the where we have different approaches which are done right now. And one example, just to make a thing clear, which was really important for me to see. So in one of these projects, using the urban twin, our university in Munich made it possible to ride our city with a wheelchair. And as a person who is fortunate enough not to have to sit in a wheelchair, this is really a new experience, because then you see how difficult it is to go up a mountain. You see how difficult it is to cross a road. You see how difficult it is to go in a bus. And it makes a difference if you only hear about it, or if you can experience it yourself. And so the urban digital twins are a great opportunity to understand each other better and build a better society. Thank you.
Thank you, Felix. And turning last but not least to you, Tit. Renate anticipated this new edict on a local digital twin and the Cityverse, and indeed Estonia will be in the driving seat. So what can you tell us about how Tallinn will support the work of this new edict, and what are the biggest challenges for building a network of local digital twins in Europe?
Thank you, and good morning to everybody. Well, the challenge is that the solutions we have, as you heard in Munich, as you heard the solutions from Finland and from Italy and also from Tallinn, the challenge is that we use them in a small bubble. But what we are very needing and demanding, and then the demand is increasing, is cross-border digital solutions. So we could use different solutions, not only in our city, in our region, not only the country, but for example all over the Europe. And that's not only the digital issue in a meaning of digital solution, but it's also a legal issue. And I think we should look how we can solve these challenges in legal matters on EU level. If you think back to the decades, Estonia has used its digital identity since I don't know, more than 20 years by now, and quite many things are done by digital identity. What we could use more is cross-border services. We heard from Munich the digital twin. We have now cooperation with Helsinki in this matter also. So that's the larger scale we can we can see and also compare each other's services and solutions, because when we have this digital twin in modeling only not the buildings but also the landscapes and green and blue environment, we can predict the future, and I think one of the challenges and not only the challenges but one of the ambitions human wants to do is flying, and the other ambition is to tell the future, and using the twin is one possibility to predict the future. But when it comes to digital solutions, I would use the opportunity and encourage the other cities and also on the state levels and also on EU levels to use also digital identity and digital signature when it comes to digital services we provide. In Tallinn city, we have more than 600 digital public services you can do online, starting from kindergarten level up to city planning. So it saves money and human resource and etc. And the word what has spread that Estonia and Tallinn we are good in digital solutions. That's the reason we are so small. The capacity of Estonia 1.3 million. Well, it's a block in a big city, but also the Tallinn with its 500,000 population. So in Tallinn we would love to say that think global, but test in Tallinn. For example, think global, but test in Tallinn. So you can use it as your physical twin when it comes to digital solutions. And a good example from Tallinn. We know what signature is, but you sign the paper. In Europe, it's quite funny for Estonians what's meant by digital signature in Europe. You print out the document, you sign it, you scan it, you email it. Come on, guys. It's not digital signature. It's well, in Estonia we use a chip card, or well, not anymore only the chip card. We use our phone to sign, which is legal document in every level. We can use even our phone to elect a local municipality council. It's state approved, it's state developed, and could you imagine the amount of paper we save in this procedure? For example, in Estonia, by using the digital signature at selling your property, registering a car, you use the digital signature, and we save paper as high as an Eiffel Tower, the pile of paper as high as Eiffel Tower. Not yearly, not monthly, weekly. Weekly, we save a pile of paper as high as Eiffel Tower by using digital signature. So the digital twin is good and great to predict future, but using digital signature, well, as you all leaders of communities and different organizations, you think global, but please come to Tallinn and test in Tallinn and see how we have done it, and we would be more than happy to share the experience with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tiit. So we are now going back to the Slido for the second question. Local digital twins can help cities address a multitude of challenges. Which of the following challenges are you expecting local digital twins to help solving? All of them doesn't count. No. Too easy. Right. Let's see the results now of both questions. There is still people voting. Okay, this for the first question, the most pressing challenge in digital transformation. We see digital inclusion. Well, reassuringly, we have a panel to discuss that. Other points about funding, skills, cooperation come up a lot. Okay, let's see the result for the second question. Interesting, mobility is first, then social inclusion again. Oh, it's changing. Right, so being aware of time, we need to move on, but first I wanted to have a comment from the audience for the results of this Slido. There is a microphone coming up, yes?
Hello, Arnis Gulbis from Riga City Digital Agency. Regarding this digital twin and digitalization progress in Riga, unfortunately, we are following good examples from Estonia, our neighbors, and we see a lot of good things down there, and we are already benefiting from this, and that's very good and sad for us in the same time. But we are doing, as Riga City, we have done a lot of activities regarding digital twin activities, and we have established data analytics team inside Riga City Digital Agency. We both working with the internal resources, also with external outsourced ones, and we are starting. It was done like a year ago, so we are starting to get first benefits from it. We are because this digital twins and data gathering is the very basic part which needs to be done in place to have the conversation about the role of digital twin. And we have started to build this thinking about data and data quality and data sources and how to get them all together. And so we have reached some few good examples to show to city management team and how they help to good right decisions, and that's the one approach. And also we are driving proactively changes, improving digital skills and overall like Riga City Council for every employee. We have done a lot with centralizing the functions because unfortunately there are several functions running in Riga City which were quite separated. Now we are have done quite a big job to centralize them, and one of the options and very good option is to use and participate in European actions, all those funding possibilities. And we have, as a city, we have applied for 5 EU grant projects. So this also will help us to get this speed up and reach the Estonian level at least. So yeah, and also we have pleasure to organize digital forum meeting in Riga in September. So this means that we are somehow visible on the on a European stage as well. So yeah, that's the thing what we have done in Riga.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you. I'm afraid that's all we got time for the first panel. Please join me in thanking our speakers. We are now moving to the second panel, the city that leaves no one behind. And for that, we are going to have a second Slido, a set of questions on Slido. So we are going to launch the first question now. What are the key challenges to digitally include citizens in your city, community, or region? We are going to comment on that later on. Please do take the time to fill in the question. And now I'd like to welcome back on stage Lluïsa Moret y Sabidó, Mayor of the Sant Boi de Llobregat, Delphine Yamet, Digital Councillor of Bordeaux Metropole and new Vice Chair of the Digital Forum of Eurocities, and Constance Nabula, City President, Pays de la Loire Region, and Vice President of Angers-Loire Métropole. So, welcome back. Lluïsa, we are going to kick off with you. But in fact, it's more of a general question to understand what are the best practices that you see at the local level for bridging the digital divide. What are your current projects, activities, and plans? Lluïsa, please. Yeah. You have the so-called ice cream cone.
Muy bien, muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. I wanted to share with you, dear mayors, dear peers, I wanted to share with you the best practices from our municipality. We are trying to reduce the gender gap. And a good example is the panel that I'm sitting in right now. We had a first panel with men, and they spoke about urban changes. And then when we speak about inclusion, we see women speaking and leading the conversation. And we have to reduce these gaps because people are our responsibility. This is a key element. Women are not represented enough in the technological sphere. When we see students at the universities in Spain, we see that all degrees related with technologies, only 30% of the students are women. So we need this gender perspective in every conversation because it is the greatest gap and the one that leads us to the biggest inequalities. You asked about best practices and actions and projects. Well, one of the most important things for us is working with a holistic vision and generating spaces in the administrations so we can coordinate our work with the different governments at different levels. We all have to be committed to the digital inclusion. I already mentioned universities, the knowledge. And I already mentioned innovation, which is a key word that is based on improvements and knowledge. These knowledge centers must adapt and adopt this gender perspective. Businesses, companies also need to have a voice, and our neighbors, our population also have to have the right to speak. In our city, we hear the voices of our neighbors because they are going to be the end users, and that is why we have created a direct participation system that is brought to the people. We go to the people. We don't wait for people to come to us. We go to the neighborhoods of our cities, and we go to public spaces such as schools, libraries, and all these spaces where our citizens meet and share their day-to-day lives. Digitalization must be brought to the people, and we have to socialize this transition. Otherwise, this digital speech seems to be rather far from the people. It is an elite speech. If we don't bring it to the people, if we don't offer them this accessibility, they will feel very far from the digital transition, and we will suffer when it comes to inclusion. So we have to have a holistic vision, as I mentioned, and we have to work together with all the actors. We have to generate a direct participation, we have to hear the voices of our citizens, and we have to identify the difficulties, the needs, when it comes to being on board of this digital transition. We have to identify the gaps, and we have to work on them. I also mentioned before the gender gap. We have created the Technologa, which is a space where we are working to facilitate women, young women, to be able to participate, to be informed in these digital spaces. That way, we will be able to have gender parity. Gender parity, which is key, especially in the decision-making bodies. All the people are not digital natives, and they experience difficulties when it comes to accessing the digital and new technologies, and that is why we have created a network for these people. We want to bring them the devices, the connectivities, so they can also be on board. I wanted to mention an important element that I mentioned before, this digital poverty. We have to add and mainstream the technology as a right, but for this we need resources. And to conclude, I wanted to mention that it is very important to work to reduce digital risks such as addictions. We have experienced this during the pandemic. Our younger adolescent citizens created a sort of addiction to the digital sphere. In Spain, we have diagnosed, we have carried out different studies that show that 8-year-old children can access porn sites, and we have identified the addiction to online games and to playing online have increased. So tackling the risks, analyzing them, and trying to avoid them is also key for us, and we must not forget this point.
Thank you, Lluïsa. And indeed, I forgot to say, women-only panel following men-only panel. Please note, this was not intentional to divide you. It was due to last-minute rescheduling. Moving on to Delphine now for the same question to you. What are the best practices that you see at the local level? What are the sort of activities you are implementing?
Bonjour. Good morning, everyone. I'll speak French, of course. It's easier for me. I have to say that I fully agree with Lluïsa in her introduction. I thought it was very interesting. We have the same observations when it comes to gender. So I think we need to tackle the digital gap in a holistic fashion, but also gender-based fashion. We need to deal with all the difficulties that our fellow citizens can meet. So first, we try to provide digital services that are useful, usable, and used. So first, we ask ourselves a question. The question is this going to be useful for a large number of citizens or not? So this is the first question when we start working on a project. So now we've changed the way we provide digital services to citizens, and we take into consideration the user experience, something we didn't used to do before in our municipalities, where we used to create a website, we used to digitalize public services without actually asking how our citizens how they would use that or what they could face, what difficulties they could face. So we have changed the approach. Now we try to use on the user pathways to avoid a digital gap. Okay, so this is our approach. We try to dodge the problems. In other words, we try to reduce the digital gap. We're trying not to make the administrative burden more complex with digitization. I have to say that because of a so-called administrative simplification, we try to digitize a lot. But by doing so, we've made some administrative processes more complex, actually. So we're trying to reverse this trend. So we try to take this into account where we're considering the digital services we'd like to provide or digitize. Then we try to understand what's going on our territory. So we have created an observatory of digital gap. It's important because it allows us to not just spend money on some field because we think it's where you have most problems. We could easily see that with seniors have a bigger digital gap because they don't have so much access to digital tools and so on and so on. But if you look into figures, young people also have issues, especially when it comes to administrative services. So they know how to use TikTok, but they're not able to ask for an ID online or a passport. So this is a true issue, and we try to provide help to young people. So let's not forget about them. We need to know what goes on our territory before we take action. Next, in France, and especially in Bordeaux Metropole, we are lucky that we have many associations working daily on access to the law. Many associations have worked on this for a long time, and now they're just working on access to digital law, period, because everybody has been digitized in France recently. There are many examples. If you want to ask for a permit, stay permit in the local municipality, or to go to the social security system office, there's nobody working behind a counter now. You need to work with a computer. So citizens go to the municipalities because this is the last place where you find a human being. When all other public services are gone and digitized, you end up with municipal services have to make up for what has been digitized. So first we try to train social workers. So at Bordeaux Metropole we have a training workshop for social workers. We try to provide support and explain how we provide support to these people. Then with the French Relance, which is like a recovery plan with EU support, EU funding, because France Relance was funded by the EU actually. So some consumers have come and we've had more opportunities on our territory. So when you digitize a service, you get rid of some people. So you reduce public expenditure, but you have the bounce back effect. It means that you have more people looking for a job. So now we need digital advisors. These digital advisors will help citizens in their work. And at Bordeaux Metropole, we have 48 digital advisors, and we also have a coordinator which manages them on the territory, and we're lucky to have that. Now we would like to make these jobs sustainable, because they're clearly funded by the state, up to over 80%, and the rest for municipalities over a 3-year project. But what is next? Next, well, we'll have to get more support. We'll get support, and it is fundamental we get it to make it more sustainable. And there's another example I wanted to share with you. What can I say? You said that you need to walk towards people. You know, you need to go and speak to people because they won't come to you. So at Bordeaux Metropole, we have the PIMS mediation. It's a network. It's present on the French territory, but it's also present in Bordeaux. And they had a digital bicycle, so to speak. So they ride their bike which is a bike which has been adapted to provide digital services, and they go in the neighborhoods and they help people to explain how to create an email address and basic stuff, you know, and they try to give them explanations on how to get the right resources. We go towards people to explain to them. So in France, over 25% of the population is suffering from a type of digital gap. So there's a true need to make sure they're not socially excluded. And clearly, this is what's happening. They're being excluded. So we need a digital world which is available to all. So we need to go and speak to people, reach out for people. And we need to give municipalities, well, the means to have human beings behind a desk, you know, a counter, where they can speak to other human beings. We'll never get rid of the digital gap. We need to be aware of that. There will always be people who don't want digital services, and it is their right if they don't want to use a computer. And secondly, there will always be people who can't because they don't have the capacity to use a computer. So it is a must-do. We have to support these people. Thank you.
Thank you, Delphine. And last but not least, Constance, please.
Bonjour à tous. Donc Constance Namula, moi j'ai...
Hi, I'm Constance. I have two hats today. Like Delphine, I also represent a territory and the vice chairwoman of a metropolis, a city called Angers. Also the vice chairwoman of the region called Pays de la Loire, and Angers is the second city in that region of France. Pays de la Loire. So there are many similarities with what we just heard from Delphine, and it's good news to have similarities, because from one city to another we see that we mostly have the same approach, the same situation, and we try to find answers which are quite similar on our respective territories. Now there are slight differences from one region to a city. Yes, the competencies are different in a region or in a city. We speak about digital inclusion, digital work for the citizens. It's a local competence. It's a local matter. It's about being close to citizens. We work with associations and neighborhoods associations and local partners. And we have these digital advisors. I'll get back to this in a sec. And then we have the digital transition for companies. That is, these are economic agents. And in France, this is a competence for the region. So maybe it's quite specific to France in the sense that the city will deal with some competences and the department or the region different competences. Welcome to France and the word of simplification, the French way to go. Anyway, how do we work in Angers? Well, we were told when preparing this event to be concrete and explain what we do in concrete terms so that we can be sources of inspiration for each other. Well, in Angers, we have a strategy to create digital relations. This is a strategy which is an underlying strategy present in all our simplification and digitization projects to improve inclusion and so on and so on. So it has 4 pillars. First, a connected relationship, a personalized relationship, an inclusive relationship, and a participatory relationship. 4 pillars. So all our digital projects must fit one of the 4 pillars for the digital work that we do for our citizens. Then there's another principle which is paramount for us. So before we speak about a gap or a tool or anything, we have a gap when it comes to accessing services. So we took an easy decision, apparently easy decision in Angers. So all services are accessible offline too. So online and offline. Maybe it's contradictory with many other places in France. In France, the state has imposed digitization of all national procedures. It should be 100% digitized since last year. But locally, we're doing the opposite. It was said just a minute ago. We are being hit by this full digitization. So it was decided that no department would be fully digitized. So some services are accessible over a counter or behind a counter, but some physical services are only exist physically. Some are present physically and digitally, but none is only available digitally. So always have the possibility to speak to someone on the phone or meet someone in addition to the online version if there is one. So it's a general principle, general approach in our municipality, and there we carry out a series of actions, like I said, to improve our digital relationship with our users. I try to add to what Delphine explained. We also have digital advisors that are quite commonplace in France, and it's good news. And what's even better about it is these advisors work for free. In other words, they use their own time, they teach at seminars, they organize workshops and provide training in the neighborhoods with the citizens, and they do it free of charge, you know. So it's pretty good and it's working out quite well. What's interesting in this is that the state is imposing digitalization, but they're paying for digital advisors. Well, that's not the topic of the day, but it's quite paradoxical, and it's the French way to go, you guess. So we're not going to reinvent the wheel either. So in France, we have a lot of associations, many stakeholders who do loads of things. So when you're asking yourself what you need to do as a city or as a territory to boost digital inclusion, the city should not create something new. The city is there to coordinate. So we created a guide of digital users and usages. So for a year, we made like a census, a list of all digital services provided with all structures. We have noticed 60 structures in our territory. We have 300,000 people in the entire territory and 150,000 in the city with 29 municipalities. So we listed 60 structures proposing different levels of support to users. So it will help people find a job or write a curriculum or enjoy their rights, so social support, pay tax online, organize FaceTime meetings with the kids or the grandchildren, or all right, so that you name it and we do it. So where to find free Wi-Fi signal, how can you scan documents to have a computer, you name it. So 60 stakeholders per neighborhood. It's about proximity. Where do you find these services? Near home. What do you need? Is it free or not? And so according to that, what response can you find? After the guide, we want to create a structured network of players at the level of our department, the French department, the French region, because we see that we're all working in silos. So we're facing many initiatives, and maybe the role of the municipality is not to create something new. It is rather to coordinate those who already work together. And then we didn't speak about digital access. We spoke about user experience, about user design, and so on. But you need to speak about the way you create digitalized digital services like websites, or platforms. In Angers, we have an online platform to get digital services or mobile apps for the municipality and so on and so on. Well, how do you create services that will not increase the gap when it comes to usage and tools, but just about access, because it's hard to click on, or it's you know, you don't need to use a mouse anymore, or you have a problem with the colors used. We have the RGAA standard in France, and it's about digital accessibility, and theoretically websites are supposed to fully respect the RGAA standard. It's not the case. They don't. So it's like always in France. We create a law, but we don't know how to respect it. So in Angers today, we took an initiative, which is quite normal actually, to reassess the existing digital services. So an accessible site is not as good looking as a non-accessible site is less good looking than an accessible site. So we need to work, we need to do auditing on digital accessibility. We need to do it on the online stop shops. And we have a new version this year. It will be 100% accessible. Also, like you said, where do we invest the money? Well, Angers has a digital accessibility barometer. It works per neighborhood. We didn't speak a lot about data this morning. With data, open data, public data, the cities provide a lot of data. Well, we created a digital barometer. It's about the maturity of our population about digital work or services. It's about, is it age? Is the gap due to age, the social category, and so on and so on. So we have a map of the city with different areas, and I can guess where there are more needs, what types of needs, and why. It's about density, proximity, and so on to understand the digital maturity. It's an internal tool that I recommend you use, and all the data already exists, so we just have to collect it. So we have enough data to create this barometer to assess the digital maturity of our citizens. So time is flying. I spoke a lot about the territory of Angers. Now I would like to say one more thing about the companies. There we didn't really mention companies, so I'm going to change my hat and put the regional hat. We need to focus on the digital transition of the economic players. Our role, I believe, is to support the digital transition of the different economic players. That is, those who do not do a digital world, not startups, companies that are not startups. I attended Vivatech yesterday, so we have startup companies, they already do digital, that we went there with so-called traditional companies so that they could actually understand the advantage, because this is what it is, the advantage of these tools making you more competitive and more efficient. The advantages of the digital world for traditional, so-called traditional companies. This is what we did with the region. So we have reviewed the digital pathways to support all companies regardless of their levels of maturity with 3 novelties. Cybersecurity, which must be fully integrated into this. Then AI, artificial intelligence, is an opportunity that we need to take. We didn't mention it yet. Especially those points of surveillance we need to focus on, but it's an opportunity that must be taken up by companies. And then responsibility or responsible digital services. It's good to do digital, it's good to develop digital tools, but we need to make sure we create the right conditions to have something which is using less energy, which is more virtuous, more sustainable. And this is what we're doing with the region. I tried to summarize this in a few words. I took too long. Sorry for that, but thank you for your attention.
Merci beaucoup, and thank to all our panelists for this very insightful discussion. Please join me in thanking our speakers again. I'm afraid that's all. Right. So. All good? Okay. Right, so for some For a special announcement, we have Marko Markula joining us on stage, President of the Helsinki region and Ambassador of the Committee of the Region.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's been really a challenging morning listening to the stories from all parts of Europe about the data economy, what the digitalization really means, what new opportunities it's providing for the cities. I summed up a few of the key points from the presentation and from that, so I want to highlight first that actually I think the key point is that with respect to digitalization, the world is not at all the same that it was just a few years ago. Committee of the Region, my first opinion, official opinion, was digital agenda for Europe, but that's already more than 10 years ago. And so much has happened. Committee of the Region, we have been active in engaging with the DG GROW about the digitalizing cities and taking next steps now, moving to intelligent cities and providing that kind of basic support. We worked a lot with the Joint Research Center, different activities now, especially at the moment, partnering for regional innovation. And in all of those, digitalization, serving the progress for cities, that's a crucial, not just an element, but it goes through everything. And if I start a bit, so to frame this, so what Mayor Määttä said in his opening, he talked about the platform. City is a platform. So this is reality already today, and if I take this, my first slide, so that we are really seeing data and data-driven policymaking as a key for the success. And it's too much simplified there when we say that cities and regions are providers of services, because they provide some of the services, but they more provide this platform together with local industry, large and small, together with universities, research centers, all citizens, all are key players in this platform economy. And remembering from this as well that when we think about sustainable development, sustainable growth, SDGs, so think about data. I've already years ago heard that data is the key source for this sustainable growth. Data is replacing oil, however, or whatever. So it's the main, data is the main raw material in not just predicting the future, like Mr. Terik from Tallinn said, so we need to predict the future, but more we need to work to invent the future. And on that, data is the key. So here, when we think about the challenges that we are facing, as said already, so that we have worked a lot with different DGs, with the cities, representing officially all the cities and regions in the European policy. So it's time now to move, take the next steps, and key on that is that we really use the best available knowledge, global knowledge, best practices. And that's why this ordinance is like an officially now announced and then taken to use. We've been involved with the Committee of the Region, with very many other actors, different sectors, directorate generals from all Commission. ESPON has played a crucial role, Eurocities, Open Agile Smart Cities, and so on. So I don't want to go to details on that, but like what is now all going on in Living-in.EU, that's taking this, that it helps everyone. This will be, Lordimas will be a free of charge instrument tool for self-assessing and helping then moving ahead. So how it will work, it includes a lot of data and practices, tackling governance, service design, data management, interoperability, service delivery, technology, and networking. All those elements will be there, and it's targeted for every city, all cities around in Europe, globally definitely soon as well. And it provides this information for real-time visualizing the results in an interactive format so that the cities can learn from each other. But the key requirement to make it successful is that you take the message further on, get your city to deliver this raw material so that everyone can benefit out of this. So it's not anymore that every city will invent its own future, digitalize its own processes, create new processes, but do more and more of this together. It will be a kind of tailor-made instrument showing on which cities there are on a European map. You can click and have a few of them together, share those, learn from those. It's really not just benchmarking, but bench learning especially. We learn from that, and you talked so many with the mayors about the moving to action, so it's kind of bench acting as well. So we should forget that we talk too much about benchmarking. We need to move to bench learning and bench acting. And it will be a tailored policy recommendations based on the results, so you can look what you could do as a city compared to some of the others. And with the help of this, you will find the others who could support you. And that's why with the Committee of the Region, we have thought that all our members, we have more than 300 members, mayors, councillors, presidents from all parts, but it's for all of the others as well, not only for the CR members. So it's so that we are not everyone reinventing the wheel, but we'll move on. So we will have these moving on. We take something from the north, we go to the Greater Barcelona, link the elements out of that, and move on. And this all will be officially launched on the 2nd of October. So please be connected, deliver the basic information there for sure. So Committee of the Region with the others, we will help you, contact you, and try to make this instrument that you all and we all can get benefit out of. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marco. Very important reminder of the importance of evidence-based policy making and an important call to turn things into action. It does look like a very interesting tool. Before we move to the concluding remarks, I wanted to go back to the Slido that we opened before, just to show the results, exactly the key challenges to digitally include citizens. Right, so we see some cluster coming up. Education, training, very interesting. Accessibility and participation as well. Skills, again. Lack of competence, skills coming up a lot. Trust as well. Right, this is all very important food for thought, and I think that in the past sessions we have seen a lot of the common challenges but also the common opportunities to make the best of the digital transition. So I'll leave you to discuss that further at the after the event over coffee. But before we move to that, I'd like to invite on stage the co-chairs of the Living-in.EU steering board, Cristina Martinez, Deputy Head of Unit at DG Connect, and Federica Bordolot, Head of Digital Transformation at Eurocities.
Thank you so much. So I will take the floor first, just to thank all speakers and all participants. I would really like to thank all the speakers of today panels for the inspiring messages and really bring all these unique experiences and activities that you are developing in your cities and in your regions to be shared really with all the community. Is extremely difficult to summarize, I think, everything that has been said today. I would just like to share my 3 top insights or messages, and I hope they resonate to you as well. First of all, I think that what we heard is really that digital technologies and tools like local digital twins are key in our cities and regions across Europe to really improve informed decision makers and to really solve a number of interconnected challenges. Mobility, we showed mobility, climate change, energy efficiency of buildings, but they are also enablers to foster collaboration and cooperation among all the players in the cities and in the regions, and really also to enhance participation, citizen participation, and to create public value to contribute into a more democratic societies. And I really like the message also of the mayor of Oulu, the slogan of Oulu to from the city hall to the streets, because this is really now also brings forward, you know, a different concept of how also local governments needs to act in the city and cooperate with all the other stakeholders. Then my second point is about is more a message. We haven't heard this today, but I wanted to bring forward because we talked a lot about local digital twins and local data platforms, but for them to really be used, reused, and for data to be shared and really extract the power of data. These local digital twins need to be interoperable. So without interoperability of system, we cannot really make the most out of all these tools and technologies. And usually when we talk about interoperability is always thought as an issue left for the technical experts, but it has to become a priority also for the politicians at the same level of fighting poverty and reach climate neutrality. And then the last point is about we cannot continue to develop and deploy more new technologies, apps, solutions if we don't make sure that each and every citizen is capable to use them. Access to internet, to devices, the right device, and having the basic knowledge and skills have become really fundamental rights in the 21st century. And to make sure that cities better understand what is the situation and are able to really act, we need these monitoring and measuring tools and observatories like Bordeaux has launched. And so we discussed about a number of different challenges, and we highlighted a number of different needs. And Living-in.EU is really the unique community and platform to address all these challenges. So I would like today to present just some of the next steps that we are going to take as part of our work, both with the Mayor's Digital Assembly and as a community of cities, regions, and member states, as signatories of Living-in.EU in the upcoming months. So as mentioned by the Mayor of Oulu in his opening speech, today was just the first step of a process that we want that we are launching to really gather all the priorities that are key for for our communities, to then and that they can also lead in a way our actions and activities in the upcoming months. So during the summer we will launch this survey to all the other signatories to really get your insights, your priorities, and then we will finalize this process during the autumn with a clear mission statement to be attached to our political declaration. On the implementation level, we will work across our 5 commitments that are in our political declaration, and with, for instance, on Lordimas, that it was just announced, we will continue to work on this incredible helpful tool, and we will help to raise awareness among the signatories, but also to help all the signatories, all the cities, regions, and member states to complete the self-assessment questionnaire and connect with other cities and of similar size who can help solve similar challenges. On the financial front, in September, we will organize a webinar on local digital twins and Cityverse. So in view of the announced and upcoming European Digital Infrastructure Consortium, the EDIC on local digital twins and Cityverse, we will share information and further developments and implementation of the multi-country projects on local digital twins, and how the signatories, they can benefit from all these projects, and how cities and regions can support as well the process. And we will also run a survey on financial needs and on leveraging funding from different resources. In the more legal aspects and in the legal subgroups, we are working on standards contractual clauses for artificial procurement that cities can apply directly when procuring digital solutions. And this is a very concrete tool that puts in place standards which will be the norm in a couple of years, and they are also aligned with the EU legislations like the Artificial Intelligence Act. At the technical level, with OASC, our colleagues here and partners, we will continue to further develop the MIMS, the Minimum Interoperability Mechanism, to ensure that digital solutions that we adopt have a minimum level of interoperability so that we can leverage on the data. But we won't also forget all the capacity building activities led by ENOL, making sure that city officials have the right skills related to artificial intelligence and big data. In autumn and winter this year, we will develop a catalog of resources, capacity building webinars and tools for all signatories to be used. And we will also use the Living-in.EU platform as a place for all the signatories to really find, test, and further develop all the assets and other tools, such as the upcoming blueprint for the governance of data space, but the upcoming local digital twins toolbox, IT infrastructure assessment tool, and the user-centric cities dashboard and other assets to be developed further. But we should note that all these adjustments depend on the priorities, of course, that we will point out as part of the questionnaire and all the work and the results that we will develop in later this summer and this autumn. So I just want to conclude to stay tuned, get engaged, and also I would like to call for all the mayors and political representatives here in the room, but also for all the others that are really part of this community to act as ambassadors for the Living-in.EU movement. We are already over 140 signatories and over 50 supporters, but we need really all cities, all regions, and all member states across Europe to really achieve digital transformation for what we always say as our target at over 300 million people. Thank you so much. And now, Christina for the final. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Señores y señoras.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, esteemed mayors.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear mayors and political representatives.
Ja, Erat. Thank you very much for coming today, and on behalf of the team, on behalf of the networks who are the initiators of this Living-in-EU movement, that is Eurocities, of course, but also ENOL in the room, and also OASC, the Committee of the Regions, and now ERIN and many more. On behalf of the European Commission team, who has been working hard for the last 3 years in making this possible, I would like to extend my gratitude to you for coming here today and for launching this first Digital Mayors Assembly. I think you will make history. And to tell you that we are very proud of what has been achieved so far, and that we're even more committed that together with you we will be making this journey to transform this continent into a sustainable and digitally fit continent for all our citizens. As a conclusion of this first assembly, we would like to bring to you a number of key highlights that the European Commission will promote in order to help you in achieving your objectives. The first ones that I want to mention is first the Digital Europe program, which has been investing heavily now in a number of infrastructure assets. We have launched a data space for smart cities and communities. We have launched digital tools such as a toolbox for digital twins. We have decided to accompany the movement with a number of support actions. We are also looking into the far future now, launching a call for projects in the area of the cityverse, so that is really trying to bring artificial intelligence and immersive technologies in this area. But to get there, we need to understand how to work together. As we heard today, collaboration is key. This will be the way to unite in diversity, to learn from ourselves, to exchange best practices, to exchange infrastructure elements that will help us to scale fast what is working. And all this requires a good governance, so it is very important for us that this collaboration translates into a governance that is sustainable and that empowers the 3 layers of this journey. The first one is the federal, the national state, where we will be embracing the governmental, let's say, decisions into the problems and the issues and the concerns that are being brought by the local level. There will be the regional level, as you've seen represented today by a lot of committed regions, and also, of course, the local level, now represented by the mayors. So our intention is to bring everyone into one structure that will help identify what are the needs, manage common assets, develop a commons for Europeans who want to embrace this digital transition, and invest collectively to joint procurements and define what are the future objectives for Europe in this digital transformation at the European level. So this is why we came up with the idea of having a new instrument, a multi-country project that will be served by an EDIC. So I hope that the people who are not yet signatories will join the movement, excuse me, and that the member states who want to support their local communities into this transformation will also support and embrace the digital transformation through this new EDIC that hopefully will be launched very soon. In the meantime, we will be working on some of the important aspects, discussing membership rules, discussing the governance structure of the EDIC. We will be looking at the contributions that everyone can bring from the European perspective, but also, thank you very much, but also from the local and the regional perspectives. We will be hopefully designing a number of supporting actions that will accompany the efforts of this new instrument. So, to put it shortly, the EDIC is, in our view, the long-term sustainability instrument that will hold all these activities together. So please join this effort. I think that to get there, everyone has understood the value of collaboration, but also has understood that a third way is possible to embrace this journey. The spirit of the Living-in-EU declaration is precisely that we can do digital in a different way in Europe. we are very concerned about the way data is managed in Europe. We are very concerned and we understand the challenges that artificial intelligence are bringing to citizens and to local and national authorities in Europe. And we think that there is a way that we can take, which will put the European value system at the center, a way that will help us to take aboard the necessary resilience and adaptation strategies. Excuse me. Here we go. And a way that will help us address the digital divides challenges that we all want to tackle and embrace. Your primary objective is to ensure the well-being of the citizens, is to ensure prosperity and sustainability in everything we do. We think that data will be necessary to achieve that, and we understand that the challenges ahead we will have to tackle them together. So in summary, this Digital Mayor Assembly is probably the best way to embrace all these challenges, to create autonomy and creativity for your own agenda, an agenda that will show what is the European way to the digital transition. So I'd like to thank again all these people who have made this journey possible, your commitments, and hopefully the forthcoming signatories of the Living-in.EU who will join forces and make Europe a continent fit for the digital era. Thank you very much. And now I think we will have a family photo all together. So shall we come to the stage?
Not yet.
Not yet? Well then, thank you anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Christina. Before the family picture, so don't go anywhere, it's my pleasure to announce the new signatories of the Joint Boost Sustained Political Declaration. We have 6 new signatories that have signed the declaration online and unfortunately could not join us today, but they are with us virtually. And we would like to welcome them to the movement remotely. They are the city of Matosinhos, the city of Taranhona, the city of Manresa, the city of Lleida, the city of Sant Boi de Llobregat, and the Flanders region. Forgive all my mispronunciation for the whole event. And now we are going to have a signature ceremony with the regional minister Constance Nebula, Pays de la Loire, Aher Loire Métropole, and Guillaume Crépin, conseiller régional délégué auprès du président chargé du numérique du région centrale de la Loire, who will sign on stage. We will get there.
No, I see the table.
Just one word, okay.
Just one word to say we are the 2 first French regions to join the movement. So I hope we will create a movement in France. 2 words.
Ça vient de la Loire. Centre-Val de Loire, Pays de Loire.
Cosa devono fare? Perfect. I would like now to invite all the signatories to join the stage for a family picture. It's gone.